Hi, I'm Bud. I'm back again with Lesson 4 in our series on music theory for guitar. Today we're going to talk about chord progressions. That is a series of chords or a sequence of chords that are played together. And you'll notice as you're learning songs, there are certain series of chords that show up again and again. If you want to know why certain chords simply go together, stay with me for this short lesson. Okay, let's start where we've left off in the past with the major scale. And again, I'm illustrating that major scale using the piano keyboard, which is a great graphical representation of the relationship between the notes in a major scale. So we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back to C, the octave C. And that's a step, step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So that sequence of notes in the scale are actually quite helpful for us to understand chord progressions as well. So what chords sound good in a given key? Now, we haven't talked a lot about different keys, and I'm going to introduce the concept of songs are written in a certain key, and there's a notation in music called the key signature. And we'll spend a little time on that at a later date when I talk about music notation. But for today, let's just realize that songs are written in different keys, and a song written in a certain key sounds good when you play the notes that are in that major scale of that key. What's also true, though, is that the chords that correspond to those notes sound good in that key. So what chords would sound good for a song that's played in the key of C? And by the way, I mentioned here that the key of C major is the same as an A minor scale. We'll have another lesson on minor scale later. So the chords that sound good in the key of C are C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor. Those primarily are the keys. The seventh chord is B diminished. I'm not going to spend much time talking about that. Now, you'll notice I have some notation here on this where there's an I, and then there's two lowercase i's, three lowercase i's, uppercase IV. These are Roman numerals. And so this is the 1 chord. This is the 2 chord, but it's a minor chord. Therefore, these are lowercase. Minor chord, lowercase. Major chord, uppercase. This is the 4. This is the 5, also a major chord, and the 6 is another minor chord. So these chords are going to be very common in a song that's played in the key of C. And so that's the simple essence of the question, and the answer to the question is that the chords that sound good in a key are the chords that are made up of the notes that are in the major scale in that key. So let's look at this. We know that the notes in the C major scale are these notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Well, let's look at C major. What notes are it made up of? C, E, G. We know from our chord theory discussion previously, this is the 1, the 3, and the 5. The first, the third, and the fifth note in the scale. But notice that all of these notes are in this alphabet of the key of C. Likewise, the D minor chord is made up of D, F, and A, all of which are found in the major scale. E, G, and B, again, all of the notes found in the C major scale are used to make up this chord. Every single one of these chords is made up of notes in this scale. There is one exception, and that is the 7. There's a 4th note in the scale in the diminish that is typically played, and I'm not going to get into why that's true. I will tell you that the 7 chord is the least common chord to find in a chord progression for a song. So what chords should you learn first? Just looking at the key of C, you can see that there are 6 chords there. Well, the most common chords in familiar songs are the 1, the 4, and the 5. So for instance, in the key of C major, or in the key of C, the 1 chord is the C, the 4 chord is the F, and the 5 chord is the G. Now, once again, these are from the previous page. What I've done is I've taken out all of the minor chords. And so if you remember, the 1 was a major, the 2 and the 3 are minors. So I've put those aside for now. The 4 and the 5 are majors. The 6 is a minor. So examples of this chord progression show up everywhere. In fact, with these 3 chords, C, F, and G, there are literally thousands of songs that you can play. And what's interesting is you can change keys and go into D or G. And once again, what you're going to find is songs written in A or D or G. They are going to so often have the 1, 4, 5 combination. So the chords that sound most common, most natural, sound really good are the 1, 4, 5 chord in any given key. Now, don't let this chart overwhelm you. Don't be afraid of this, but I just want to show you that this set of chords can literally be defined for any key. And I'm going to introduce some new things here. First of all, I'm going to talk about key signature, even though we haven't gotten into that. What this simply means is that the key signature has 1 sharp, 2 sharps, 3 sharps, 4 sharps, 5, 6 sharps, 1 flat up to 6 flats. So a key signature with no sharps or flats at all is the key of C. And in the key of C, the 1 chord is the C, the 2 chord is a D minor, the 3 chord is an E minor, the 4 chord is an F, the 5 chord is a G, the 6 chord is an A minor, and the 7 chord is the B diminished. Now, I've colored this chart in such a way to show that these light red cells are minor chords, and again, indicated by the lowercase Roman numerals. And the uppercase Roman numerals and the blue cells represent the major chords in any key. Now, I know this looks like an awful lot of information to remember, and trust me, you don't have to memorize this chart, although this is a handy reference to have. And there are lots of charts like this available out on the internet. So I made this one myself so that I wouldn't infringe on anyone's copyright, but you can either make one or you can certainly copy one off of the internet. Now, this chart is simply the same chart again, but what I've done in this case is I've really tried to answer the question of what chords should you really learn first to be able to play thousands and thousands of songs. And in fact, what you're going to find for guitar, there are certain keys that are just not very easy to play. The key of E flat, it's just not a great key to play on the guitar. So when it comes to songs written for the guitar, the most common you're going to find is C, G, D, A, E, and F. Those are, without a doubt, the most common keys that you're going to find songs written in. Now, when you are playing a song that was written on the piano, you're very likely going to find songs written in the key of B flat or E flat, the key of B. So those are certainly keys that you will find songs written in. However, I would say focus first on learning these chords. Now, let's look at how much overlap there is in the chords that fit into these songs in a certain key. In the key of C, we've already talked about that at great length. So in the key of G, notice in the key of G, I'm using A, which shows up in the key of C, B is a new one. It's not one of the chords you see in the key of C, although the B diminished would be the 7. C major, D major. So the 1-4-5 is G, C, D. Lots of songs written with G, C, D. Folk songs, country songs, rock songs, pop songs, just about any genre of music, you're going to find that chord progression. Again, in the key of D, D, G, A, the most common chord progression in the key of D. And then you'll see E minor, certainly E minor, and B minor in many songs written in the key of D. But notice again, these same chords, here's G, D, A, G, D, A, G, D, A, those chords that are used over and over in sort of, many songs written in various keys. In the key of F, again, you have G, you have A, you have B flat, which is a little different than what you see in most of these others, but B flat major is probably one of the more common chords you're going to want to learn to play, and then C and D. So these are common chord progressions. They're the right first chords for you to learn. Now, I'm going to introduce the circle of fifths as the last slide in this lesson. And I want you to not worry about the fact that there's a lot of things on this slide that are new and different from anything you've seen. So this is the key signature I was talking about. Notice 1 flat. This is a key signature, 1 sharp. The key of G is designated with 1 sharp. In the key of C, there is no sharps or flats, so there's no signature there. And as you go around this circle of fifths, which we'll talk about, you're going to find the various keys and the key signatures that go with them. But what I've done for this lesson is to show you that the circle of fifths can be a great reference for the common chord progressions. So remember I said that in the key of C, the chords you were going to use was the 1, the 4, and the 5, which are major chords, C, F, and G. And the minor chords you were going to use was D, A, and E. So this is the 2 chord, this is the 3 chord, and this is the 6 chord, and these are all minor chords. But the beauty of the circle of fifths is that it gives you a quick reference. If you just find the key that the song is written in, and you look at the pie shape of the 2 adjacent notes on either side, this is the chords that fit in that key and that you will likely play. And notice B, this is the 7. I'm excluding that because it is a less likely chord for you to find in the progression. So we'll talk a lot more about the circle of fifths in the future. But hopefully today you've got a good understanding that in any key there are chord progressions that make sense because all the chords in those chords are made up of the notes in the major scale of that key. So come back next week. There'll be a fresh lesson, and we will keep this music theory for guitar going as long as you find it beneficial. Please leave comments and suggestions. I really look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you next week.